See, if I add you first, I don't have to like do the swapping around thing. Starting to learn this platform.
There we go. Yeah.
Welcome, guys.
Nice.
So,
David, how are you? You've been up to, man. You've been busy.
Yeah, I'm driving back from Kansas City, home of Taylor Swift. No, I'm just
Yeah.
Let's open up a whole can of worms. Yeah, I was there for AWP, and now I'm heading back to the Valle, to the Rio Grande Valley. But it's a 15-hour drive, so I was like, I'll stop about halfway in Waco. And so
that's safe.
I'm to you from a hotel room in Waco, in Waco, Texas.
Wacky Waco.
Wacky Waco.
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm. And you, what have you been up to?
Prepping Texas Latino Comic Con coming, announcement coming soon. Keep an eye out for that. 2024 Texas Latino Comic Con. We have a big Puzzle Hero story still developing with NBC, so check that out. That's a sneak peek there. And, definitely, all gears on the Chispa verse, 100%, and a new Katrina's Caravan coming up. So excited for that.
Yeah, and a new miniseries.
Voice of the World too,
That's right. Yeah. So we're having some major kaiju stuff, as we've mentioned before to people. So be on the lookout for that. Black Demon Tales is about to take a really interesting twist, and then we're floating into Wards of the World. We're also, the 13 continue going on, and wrapping up for the mini series is 13 Rise of the Five. That's going to bring the whole team together. That's going to be fun. I've already seen
that story's amazing. That's
it really is.
Dude.
Yeah, Eva Cabrera is going to be illustrating that. She's been doing some really amazing work. Terry Blass's scripts are really great too. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the direction things are going. I'm
excited too because the team dynamics, especially Terry, and we have the privilege of reading these scripts beforehand and just seeing the interactions, the different personalities, pop up, and Terry does a very well job balancing a lot of voices and making sure each character has enough room to breathe too.
Yeah. And he takes characters that when you're first reading them seem like it's going to be hard for them to fit into a team, like DRAGONTHRALL, and find cool ways to make them fit in. So I'm really excited about that. Speaking of DRAGONTHRALL, we do have the creative team behind the origin story with us tonight, and we're going to be introducing them in a minute. But one of the things that I was kind of excited about with DRAGONTHRALL is most of the characters at that point had been kind of like, I guess like I wouldn't say that they're happy-go-lucky characters, but they had been characters who have been very like about heroics, and with DRAGONTHRALL, it's a darker character, and it's a character who maybe deals with injustice in ways that will be appalling to the other members of the 13, and to Father Tonal and everybody at Guadalupe College, but that's what happens when you are the literal thrall of a Mesoamerican dragon, right?
Yeah, it's very raw. Yeah. That's what reading the story is very raw, and there's a sense of great passion, emotion, and then with Steph with the illustrations evoking that. Yeah. It's a very well. It's a great team. I mean,
it is. It is really good, and finally getting all the lettering done by Charlene and just that combination of the great script, the lettering, the art. So
that lettering is.
Yeah, it's really it goes really well with the art. But I love anti-heroes. Don't you love anti-heroes?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, we all. I mean, it's in a lot of the, you look at lucha libre. You see anti-heroes, right? You see, I mean, especially those that moral ambiguity. What's wrong? Between, especially the border. I mean, the border is it's shades of gray. is what's your right, my wrong, and it's always been like that. And so, within our culture, we have that anti-hero aspect that we would like to, we really understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to say that the Dragonthrall is like Punisher or something. Not
that. Pancho Villa. Pancho, you say Pancho Villa is an anti-hero?
No, Punisher. I was saying
Pancho Villa.
Pancho, this is interesting because Dragonthrall is closer to Pancho Villa than she is to Punisher. Yeah. But they're anti-heroes. That's right. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Oh, and in the future we'll have to talk about a Pancho Villa project that we.
100%. Yeah.
People are getting excited about that. So, what do you say if we bring our guest on and
come on down
and have them chat with us a little bit, right? Okay. Oh, I didn't change this. If you're looking at the script, you'll be like, "Wait a minute, what was that?" And I know what I'm doing, even if it doesn't seem like it.
No, you're good. It's all we're only live.
Yeah, we're only live. It's no big deal. Nobody's going to even edit this. It's going to actually go onto Spotify as is. It's wonderful. Just mess up all you want, David. No problem.
Yeah. We keep it real.
Keeping it real. What comedian was that from the 80s?
Oh, it's Dave Chappelle. Keeping it real goes wrong, or that metal, or we'll bring her up.
Yeah, totally. So first up we have the writer Veronique Medrano. She's a Tejano and country singer-songwriter. She's been described as a Tex-Mex artist with a voice as big as a Lone Star State, and she definitely has she can project her one-of-a-kind sound that celebrates Mexican and American duality is just kind of capturing the Tejano world by storm. And she's also an activist, a podcaster. Really recommend her podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And an emerging writer, with a couple of titles coming from us, including Dragonthrall and also one of the Black Demon Tale Emergence miniseries comics. So welcome, Veronique. We're so happy to have you on board. And tell us about our illustrator, Hector. Who's our illustrator?
Oh, it says Steph C coming down from Mexico, right?
Yeah, she's originally from Mexico. That's right.
Born and raised and based in Mexico.
Still based in Mexico? You still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. I've been trying to get a chance maybe in the upcoming years, but I'm still here. It's very nice. It's so lovely this time of year before the apocalypse that is summer starts.
Tell us a little bit more about her, Hector.
Yeah, no. Steph C is an artist and illustrator, mainly known for stylish characters that evoke a vibrant sensation within a story and design with a sense of geometry and sharp compositions, where you'll see definitely in Dragonthrall. Her goal is to inspire others through the power of creation. She has previously worked on several projects for Disney, Warner Brothers, DC Comics, Fandom, Tabletop, perhaps mostly notably the illustrator on the Green Lantern graphic novel Unearthed, a Jessica Cruz story. So if you're a fan of Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, we actually have a really cool local cosplayer in Dallas that has dressed as Jessica Cruz from your book.
So
yeah, she's watching. Yeah. We definitely need to tag her. So she's a fan.
People are cosplaying your designs. It's cool, right?
Yeah.
That makes my little geek heart so happy. Thank you for letting me know.
Yes, and I will share that on the chat. Her link with Jessica Cruz.
Yeah. And full disclosure, I actually was DC hired me to do an expert read of that comic because Lilian Rivera, who wrote it, she wanted somebody who's Mexican or Mexican American, but who knows a lot about Aztec and Maya mythology to read the script, stuff like that. And so I still remember getting those pages and looking at the art and going, holy shit, the art is amazing. Who is this artist? It's so good. And so, when the opportunity came for us to do Chispa, and we were thinking about superheroes, I was like, oh my God, I gotta get Steph C. A ver cómo le hago, pero I'm gonna get her on some project. So things worked out really, really perfectly. So we're gonna kind of take turns going back and forth, questions for the two of you, and then just everybody else just jump in as you want. So Vero, this was your first comic script that you wrote, right?
Yes.
What kind of challenges and joys, sometimes the ups and downs, right, did writing a comic present to you?
I think like one of the biggest things is that I needed to not be super emo about it. Because the character and David can speak to this when he first read the script. It was like really dark. Like it went it went a lot darker, I think, than either one of us was like, he had to call me back and be like, okay, this a little much.
It's really
This is a
dangerous.
little wild. You're teetering here on the edge here. And honestly, it came from a background of just being a reader. So I was really into the darker anti-hero characters that just really had to deal with some really heavy stuff. And visually putting that on the script, you know, was really important to me. But in the grand scheme of things, like, yeah, some stuff is just like a little too artistic. I can agree to that. But that was some of the challenges is kind of going from a creative writing background where I was writing novels, I was writing poetry, I write music, to kind of coming back to the basics of writing, you know, a comic script and writing a comic and really kind of getting into that and how little and how much to balance. That was really the challenge. To anybody who thinks it's easy, it's most definitely not, because that's the challenge that you have. You have to give the artist just enough for them to do their job, and you have to have written it well enough that they get where you're coming from. Because if you overdo it, as me and David, you know, like, you know, he guided me through it, it's really clear, just how much you have to really pull back the amount of description you get, or else the artist doesn't exist, and that's not right. So I really wanted to balance that well. And the joys of it is that, oh my god, I get to write a comic. That's it. Like, that's the base base emotion.
Yeah, you're a big comics fan, right? You have been for a long time.
Yeah, so my mom and my uncle, so that was my introduction to comic books. I read Archie comics as a young kid because she had a bunch of Archie comics. Betty, Veronica, Archie, Pendejo. And and then there, with on the other side, my uncle had like Witchblade and Wolverine and X-Men, and you know, and it's wild. Like, it's wild to think that as like from 7 to 13, these are the books that I read before I got into manga, Sailor Moon, that type of stuff on my own. And then to be able to write it later on in life, it feels like a full circle moment. It feels like I didn't just discover those books by accident. That's what feels really wild to me, is that, yeah, my history with it is always as a fan, is
you know,
always.
but it shows, Beto. It shows. You know, we definitely see it. Those that are, you know, respect the comic book sequential medium, you know, and you see it, you're fans of it, and when you're dabbing into it, even if it's your first, that passion, that understanding, it shows through your writing, especially as your first. Well, you know, as your first comic book.
Oh yeah, I still get overwhelmed. Like, I remember the first pages I got from David and Steph, and I had to like pull myself like to the side and cry. Like, it's just like, I'm a very emotional person, but that to me was like, I could show it to 7-year-old me and be like, look, this is what we did.
Yeah.
And that was just wild to me. Just the gorgeousness. It had everything I wanted. And that's the trust that you have when you're like writing something. And again, I say it again, it's the trust that you have that someone will execute it in such a way that is beyond your wildest expectations. So Steph, that was amazing. I told her in Messenger, but now she gets to hear it from a mouth. So there's that.
Speaking of Steph, Hector, why don't you?
Steph. So, question for you: what ways does your identity and your own experience inform, reflect the story, the setting within Dragonthrall?
Yeah, so as a creator, and especially given my background and who I am, I've come from like, I often describe my family as like aliens that came to study humans and to experience how to blend in. And so we grew up like, I grew up in like a very special Mexican setup in which I learned. I am just like beyond fascinated with our culture and the way society and our cultural norms integrate into ourselves. And when it comes to comics, like things like DRAGONTHRALL, Nerd, or things like that, growing up, I was always like so confused why the comics that I saw and that like I read them, and then I will ask like, do we have things like that? And most of the time, you'll hear like Mexicans don't really do that, and I will get like so angry because I'm like, that is not true. Like we do a lot of creative things. We come from like a diverse cultural uh, background. It's Mexican culture is full, it's filled to the brim with mythos and story and sociology and all that. And so my objective as an artist has always been like, number one, I'm going to do what I want. So I don't really have like a setup to, I want to be like this or this person. I have people I admire, but I've always wanted to do what I want. And number two, to be real to the way I experience life, which is the way people look, the way we act with others, the way my city and like the places around me are and look. And like we don't live like in houses that are typically American, like like our houses are like all secluded in like streets, and there's like they're very lively, and that is a part of suburban Mexican that I absolutely adore. And I absolutely love Veronique for she integrated like wonderfully the specifics of, for example, something that I love is that she integrated uh, tequila in Jalisco and the city, but which gave me like an opportunity to not only like take the stereotype vision of Mexico, which is like more like Guanajuato or the border. And tequila, it's a little bit more in like the valley still. And so I played with that. She also gave me like a lot of opportunity to play with like things like setups like Mexican restaurants, which are not like what we often see, right? With like the hats and all that, which is true to our culture, but we are like so much more than that. And I was like so excited that she gave me the perfect thing to like, I'm gonna grab everything I love from modern society and I'm gonna put it in this comic because something that I really, really love is to be able to portray our reality as we experience it. And when people see that, they're like, I know this thing, or like I know exactly where this is, or like I know this city. And that is something that I even struggle when I see when I was studying arts and film. Um, a lot of the examples you even see locally are like, oh, we're gonna do like I don't know, like a Mexican background or things like that. And they always like make you draw a desert. And I'm like, why are you like perpetuating like this idea? Like we have like a lot of different things. And so for me, it's always important to integrate aspects of reality into it and just kind of like breaking apart from the stereotypes that we have even cemented in ourselves because I think that malinchismo and self-discrimination is very integrated in Mexican culture still. Like I see it all the time. Art, it's like one of them. And so that's why I was like so excited to work on DRAGONTHRALL because it was modern. I could play around with like these scenarios. The airport. I love painting. Like I've been to that airport before, so it was like very, very. It was just especially like I've been to this place. I know exactly what I'm going to draw. So I really, really like that. And I think it's just important to like put yourself and your reality as you see it. Your experience in the world is what really makes you an artist and not the other way around.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people are going to be really, really excited or and maybe surprised to see this particular view of Mexico because it's authentic and it's different from what is so like you say what's so often portrayed. I was thinking as you were talking about the desert stuff. I I've written some books set like in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica in the area of Tenochtitlan or whatever, and they always get artists to like draw the area, and it's like all deserty and whatever. Like those were pine forests. That was all just, those mountains were covered in pines, and there was like it wasn't like a desert. It's it's a weird.
It's a valley. The city used to be on top of a lake.
Yes,
Like, what makes you think it's a desert?
trees. Like what? Did you remember the recent Marvel movie? What was it? The one with the, like the immortal beings in it. What is it called?
Quite literally, the Immortals.
Yeah, Immortals.
Yeah, this literally. Okay, there you go.
Oh no, the Eternals.
They have that one scene where they show
it's the Eternals. It's
the Eternals.
Sorry,
Oh
everyone.
my gosh.
And they show Tenochtitlan, and it's like all dark and like, and it's like, well, it was full of trees and gardens, and the buildings were painted white and had red clay rooftops. It's like, nobody ever gets it right. Everybody's like, it's either, dark and scary, or it's a desert. One of the two. It's like, no, not good. The things are really different. To put all that stuff into the script that Steph interpreted, Veronique, was, a bit of a challenge for you. I mean, Mexico, but like, you don't know. I don't think you've ever been to Tequila, Jalisco,
No.
right?
No.
What was like research like for you, and like just trying to center yourself and when writing?
I know that like when I first got information about the character, it was very like, okay, you're gonna interpret this and take it, and you're gonna have to. I remember the conversation. I remember the conversation of, you better be ready for whatever it is that you're trying to put out there. And I really appreciated that advice, because when I took on the challenge of trying to interpret a place that I have never been to, Steph has it completely right. I wanted to and I always do in most of my works, whether it's music videos, whether it's music, whether it's any of the activism work, is to really showcase a place for what it actually is. And the place many times is just South Texas for me, or deep South Texas, beyond San Antonio.
Yeah.
But with this, I understood the importance that it would be for people who are, Mexican, who are dreamers, who are going through something like this, visiting home. And I really wanted the authenticity of the place to be at the forefront of what I was doing. I wasn't going to make a fake world or a fake anything, because this is so, at least to me, I would want to see that. I would want to see the actual place that I live in represented accurately. And so the research for it was like, okay, let's look up like Google Maps. Let's look up the satellite images. Let's look up like what I literally went down the rabbit hole so far that I was like, okay, what are the flora and fauna of the area? I felt like that doctor lady from Jurassic Park, where I'm like, that fauna doesn't go there. That flora is wrong. And when I picked like certain things, especially like the mythology, especially with like there's a hummingbird in it, and I was like, okay, does this fit? I know why it fits for me personally, because I have a very personal relationship with the animal and spiritually with the animal. But does this fit the narrative of the character and the god? And so I wasn't forcing it, but I was like, okay, if I have to change it, I'll change it. And I was so happy that somehow innately along my research, I probably picked it up, but I double checked. And it's double checking and going beyond the sepia world that Western media has given us, and give a full world of color. And so like when you look at those pages that Steph puts out, it is no longer a world of sepia that Mexico is. It is the full like complexity of color. And to me, I'm so proud of that. I'm proud of just being able to see that, and knowing that someone in Mexico will pick that up and will be like, wow, like this is my home. Like my home is in a comic book.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Maybe you can like, I'm going to flip through some pages here on where I'm sharing the screen so people can see.
My favorite part, one of my favorite parts that I wrote, this one right here.
Yeah, the birthday party is so great. Yeah. Yeah, I love it so much. And the colors and the characters are so definitely Mexican, so rooted in this area. And it's amazingly beautiful. And then when we get to you can see it on my notes to the letter. And then when we get to the mythological part, when we get to the mythological part, we have this, this encounter between Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun, and Coyolxauhqui, the goddess of the moon. It's just amazing, and this kind of like twist on their story that Veronique wrote for this. And I remember you coming to me and talking it through with me several times just to try to find the right way to retool the myth so that it was both respectful of like the original story of Nahuas, who because that was one of the other conversations. There are lots of indigenous people living in the area of Jalisco, and we went with Nahuas even though they were like maybe one of the smaller populations, just because it's a little bit easier and people are going to be more familiar with Huitzilopochtli, and it works better with the hummingbird and so forth. But I think it's really incredible, and because I think the major reason we chose Huitzilopochtli is because his weapon is the Xihuacoatl, right? The dragon, that Mesoamerican dragon, and so it works perfectly that be the thing that she's enthralled to. And so and here's the whole airport scene, which is this really amazing. And anybody who's like dreamers and like that tension, like just going anywhere with a visa, right? And feeling that tension of oh my God, what if I don't have my papers in order or whatever. And the situation that she goes through is so startling.
When we talk about the research for this part, this was the part that I was the most, on top of like the area, this was the second part that I was the most focused on, is how to get that intense anxiety, because as every little short story I read from people who were dreamers, statements that they've made in the press, that was the prevailing feeling. And that was kind of one of those things that I wanted to make sure was perfectly encapsulated as best as possible, was that anxiety and that fear.
And this scene right here where just everything comes to a head, and she's like, because she's just turned 18, and she says, for this, in this country, I'm legal now. And she grabs the bottle of tequila and like walks out of the house. Granted, these ostensibly will be considered like YA stories when they're collected into graphic novels. But this is an important thing. I mean, it is true that even teens, sometimes try to find some kind of relief for the inordinate pressures that society places on us, especially somebody who's undocumented, right? And a dreamer finds solace in other things. And it leads us to the incredible scene where I had to have you pull back. You remember this, Beto? Your original take on the scene was a more over the top than I was. I was like,
yes, it was novela. It was drama. It was like film. Okay, I was in it. I was so far up my butt that I.
But I mean, it was good. It was good. It was just, it was a little further than I would want a YA book to go. And
and that was kind of the thing, is like I took it from that place of my own knowledge of that darkness from a lot of these comics that I read probably a little too young, not gonna lie, but it was like that's where my headspace was. But honestly, like it is a conversation. Like this entire thing there's continuous conversations throughout this story. Am I Mexican enough? Can I assimilate? Do I assimilate? Do I assimilate to country? Do I assimilate to religion? There's so many takes that you can have on this story, because being a Mexican American dreamer, somebody who's trying to just make their life better, is complicated, even at a young age, even at an age where you're supposed to be an adult and really you're not. You're not there yet. Not at all.
Yeah, totally. Hector?
Oh yeah, question for Steph. Yeah, I mean, checking out your amazing stylist art, what would you say? What's your influences? I mean, personally as well as artistically for your characters and your settings.
Yeah, I think that they derive a lot from film, but especially I would say late modernism. So I'm very into cubism and modern art. I think that many of my favorite painters are Picasso, Diego Rivera, Siqueiros. Uh, oh, I'm blanking out of his name, but he painted the El Hombre de Fuego here in Hospicio Cabañas. And so I'm very attracted to the power of the line and the structure of color. Color is something that is very close to me as as a comic artist. I don't really do a lot of heavy line work. I do all of my scripting in color. So basically, usually what I send when I do like the pages or the sketches or the pencils are like, this is just like the pace. This is how it's gonna like look like in a structural level. But once I get color, then it's gonna like it's when it's gonna hit. And I'm very inspired by that. I think that my method when it comes to paintings and comics, it's more similar to when I'm working on a piece, an individual piece, than actually working on like a comic and doing pencils and then heavy inks and then the colors and then you have like flats and shadows. And I will agree that they read better, but I feel that for some dramatical aesthetics, you could like push it further. And I really like to do that with my comics. And a lot of like the heavy parts of this comic are like color scripted, like when she gets angry, there's a lot of reds and magentas, and then when she's like stumbling in the night, there is a lot of like uh, purples and like the blues are a little bit more gray, which she's a bit lost. And there is also like some color play when she's at the airport, right? And she's anxious, and that is a chroma effect. It's like a chroma distortion that I add to the panel to give it like that sense of like lack of balance. So I think that when it comes to like my influences, they really inspire. I took like the base of them, and those inspired me to like push it to the narrative of comics and storytelling, plus like film, right? Like a lot of my favorite directors, uh, I take inspiration from them when I create and when I even like lay out my panels. Um,
And there's a sense of like fluid sequential fluidism. It almost looks, like movie
Yeah, it looks
storyboards.
very cinematic. Like storyboards for sure, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So my background is actually from film and animation, so I take a lot of inspiration from that. Every time
Yeah.
I have like people ask me like, what is like your main thing when you are doing a comic, or like how will you like teach me how to do a comic? And I always like to tell them like a comic can be anything you want as long as it looks as the way you want to be. As long as your story it's being told the way you imagine it, then it's done. And I think this includes a lot of breaking the rules when it comes to traditional media. But as I mentioned, like I integrated it a lot with what I learned from animation and storyboarding and color scripting and directing and like shifting the camera to create like more dynamic angles and like
Yeah.
how can I play with that and how can I bring like my influences like cubism into this, how can I bring modernism, how can I bring impressionism to this, like even in traditional media. Even though all of my work is digital, I absolutely love that it has given me like this massive window that I
Mm.
can do absolutely like anything I want, and I don't have to like change mediums ever. As long as I could decide to go with something more I don't know, like acrylics or oils, and I could have done that because I have like digital brushes. But I
Yep.
think I produced a story that it's like cemented more on like the emotion of that Veronique wanted to. She was giving me in her script. I like the emotion of the characters and the
Yeah.
place, and just like bringing this mythology to life. I had to go for like a more wash out into watercolors and make it a little bit more vibrant so it will accompany the story perfectly. And so I just like to combine all of that into like my work.
Oh, it's a visual feast. I mean, it's like you break away from the traditional aspects of comic book mediums, and you play around the borders. There's it's very artistic, it's very beautiful, and there's a lot of the emotion that you're giving, translating from Vero's story to the characters. It evokes a lot of feeling and rawness, and it's great with Dragonthrall. Just a perfect fit.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. We've heard some of Steph's influences that come from the other work that she's done. I mean, as a singer and songwriter, Beto, did any of that kind of stuff come into play? I mean, do your experiences and other artistic fields kind of like fuel you or feed into it in any way? Was there
I
a
think
similar process or something?
I think that's really awesome that you're asking me that, because I think a lot of the times when I talk about my music, if you listen to my music, especially like most of the records I have out right now, there is that very cinematic aspect to them. I think it came from the fact that in high school I got kicked out of the choir program and was thrown, and the only way I could stay into this in the school that I was in, because it was like magnet schools at the time, so you could only stay at an arts magnet if somebody else kind of vouched for you. And I had decided to do media tech at the time as just an elective. And the teacher didn't want to see me leave and vouched for me and pretty much was like, okay, we're gonna have you stay here, da, 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 fill this out. And that very pivotal moment in my life, being both like, mind you, I was still in choir. I don't understand what all the hubbub was about to this day, but
Qué para que te
no, I didn't do
you want to
anything.
even tell us, right? Look at you. You're
I didn't do anything. I was a
you're
saint.
super innocent.
No, no, but everything aside, there's things that happen in life, things that just happen, period. And I kind of took a lot of that personal experience along with the fact that I was taught at a quite young age, at least in my opinion, to start scripting and storyboarding and really looking at things cinematically. And so that duality of that allowed me to make some really intense and raw and just very visceral music. I think of like I think I think of like rock bands. I think of like My Chemical Romance and Green Day, and just the disillusion with the establishment, that kind of vibe that comes from that, musically. But in the comics, like, I had so many different inspirations for this book, and me and you went back and forth on like, okay, can I do this? Okay, can I kind of take her this way? Because I wanted to show how rough it is at times to be at the precipice of adulthood, and just how much turmoil there is internally, despite what may seem as a normal day. Because this definitely was a normal day gone bad. Like, what happens if a teen has a normal day that goes wrong? And I have been on the other end of that. And so, like, to be able to express that in comics was really alleviating for me. But yeah, like, I think of Wolverine. I think of just these characters that just have just a bad day.
I think about your lyrics, and I think about how you do like the playfulness also of your lyrics, the kind of the storytelling that goes into a lot of your songs as well, like shows that definitely like you're into that kind of uh, musical tradition.
Yes.
That's so typical in like country and norteño and stuff like that. So yeah, I can absolutely see it. And I mean, to me, it feels like almost all creative endeavors flow into each other. You know that I write in like all kinds of genres, and you know, there are lots of things you learn in one that can go into another. And so I'm thinking, there are constraints when you write music. There's rhythmic patterns, rhyming patterns. You're constrained. You can't just do whatever you want. And the same thing is true of comics, right? You've, like you said earlier, 25 words per panel. Yeah, I know that was a
I
tough
just say that's what you said right now. I didn't say nothing. I've got notes.
You gotta reel you in.
Yeah.
What? So, you've got another comic coming from us. The third issue of Black Demon Tales Descent is. We just got a really great cover from the illustrator Armando Sanker that will roll out on social media sometime next week. And I would say, your second script was tighter, and you it's just like anything else. You just do it, and you eventually, you work towards it. Steph, when you think about the different types of art that you've worked in, because I know you use digital for everything, but you create lots of different things. You create, posters and sequential art and this, that, and other thing. And do you find that that's true? That like one type of art teaches you things that you can apply to another type of art?
Yeah, 100%. That's pretty much the basis of all of my artist persona. Because I don't know, I think that growing up, I like studying art and just kind of hearing it from like other artists. And like, so the way the way my art education went about when I was studying film was not the very best. And I grew up with people. I study, like, my teachers were people that were not prepared at all to teach. They were very cemented on their ways, and the way they taught, it was just like pretty much based on how they imagine that it will, how they imagine that they will be rich and famous in the 90s, and it was already the 2000s. And I never liked that aspect of art where you learn to do certain things, and then that's the whole thing. Like, that's the whole shablam. Like, you can only aspire to be as good as the previous artist before that, and you can never surpass them. And if you are not like if you are not like our comic artists or filmmakers or storytellers of the past, then what's the point? And always find that very self-limiting, in my opinion. So when I started to doing art, especially with posters, not that you mentioned it, um, when I started to do posters, for example, I'm like, okay, like, I love storytelling in comics, I love movies, and I also like that I want my art to be like so much more than just like a, a beautiful woman with evil intent, right? Which I really like. I'd like to draw a beautiful women with evil intent. But when it comes to poster art, I'm like, how can I take a step C and mix it with a thing that it's already pre-established? Like, if I'm not like this is the standard. And a lot of the people that do that follow this standard. And that's perfectly fine. And I'm like, well, I want to be this, but I don't want to be part of this. I want to be like step C doing that. And I always like to combine like what I know about classical art. And when it comes to posters, when I did, for example, the Marie Antoinette poster or the Carrie poster, I play a lot with like the silhouettes of the women, because for Carrie, I like the final scene of the fire, right? And a lot of the posters from her are the when she has like the blood on her, and it's like very iconic. And I'm like, I want that, but I also want the fire scene, and I also want it to be a portrait of almost a ghost, because I also love ghosts. And I feel like these three things that I wanted, and I'm like, if this wasn't a poster, if this was just one of my illustrations, however, I would do it.
Yeah.
And I just came with the idea of having a face, and one of her eyes is the ghost that like walks. It's the silhouette of Carrie when she like walks out, like she leaves the gym when everything is ablaze, and her hair is the flames, and like the letters are also part of like the fire. And I like to play a lot with that because it has, I think that it has become a characteristic that a lot of people, they do not recognize me, but when I'm at cons or things like that, they will see my art and they're like, I know this, yeah, like I know this is a Steph C because your art is just like so peculiar. It's so peculiar, and I love that.
Yeah, I was like recently. You've been putting a lot of like manifesting kind of like poster inquiries.
Yes.
I love the poster you put up for Pearl. The one that you did for Skinema Rink was really cool. Every time you post stuff, I'm like, damn, that Steph C. She likes a lot of the same horror stuff that I love, and I know that Veronique is a really huge horror fan, and so is Hector. So
for me, it was definitely the Barbie one. That Barbie one and the inspiration for that. Wow, like that's a deep cut in a sense. I know it's not super deep, but like if you're looking at it, you're like, why this pose? Why this thing? And it's like your intention with those posters. I mean, I think you have one behind you, if I'm correct. I think it's like the Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, let me move.
Yeah,
This
so like
one.
there's that one is like still to that same thing. There it's intense, it's raw, and it's just like every time you look at something, it doesn't matter how like feminine it might be or how it kind of exudes that with color and just softness, but there's just this deep undercut in your artwork that I love. Every time I see it, I'm like, dang, there's so much to this that I really enjoy.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that, because going back to like coming to those places uh of the school and all that, when you learn illustration with that type of people, you learn like very basic things, right? Or like, oh, you just have to look cool because I like this anime. Or I had a professor that was very obsessed with like uh old time Disney, like vintage Disney. And I absolutely love it. Like David Earl is also like one of my inspirations. But I sometimes feel that as an artist, if you stay stuck on that, you limit yourself into the ideas of the future. So if you always try to recreate what has been before you, you're never going to like find your true potential, or like find who you can really be in the art market. And that is something that I always keep like very very present in my art, like with the Barbie poster. The thing is that when I saw the trailer and I heard like the dialogue for like ideas are forever but humans just have like, I can't remember verbatim how it is, but that just like bring me to like, it brought me like so many ideas of like existentialism. Like, in all honesty, I knew the movie wasn't gonna be my Ingmar Bergman fantasy of existentialism and horror. I knew it. I knew I was never gonna get that, but I'm like, I can get that, but I can make the poster to give me that, and it also fits with the movie because
Canon, right? It can be an Ingrid Bergman Barbie film. I love it.
yes. That's what I wanted, and so that's why the poster was inspired by that, and also Evangelion. Like, End of Evangelion is like very much that too, especially because that final scene where she's with Ruth. I was watching it in the cinema.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
I haven't finished it. It's part of my backlog.
Oh, okay.
Part of my anime backlog.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Mute the computer.
It's been ages. It was
I don't know.
time,
It's his own fault for not finishing it. I don't know what to say.
Well, how many years has it been? Like, how many decades?
How many decades? Decades.
Hey, it's on Netflix.
We forgive you after 15, but after that, we're like, no.
That and like Attack on Titan and all.
Well, I haven't finished Attack on Titan either. I feel really bad, but it's just that it was so long between seasons initially that I was like,
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It was like George R.R. Martin books. I'm like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
That's messed up. Shots fired.
Not finishing those books.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I like to know that this is a spoiler-free zone.
You just need to bring earplugs next time, bro.
Yeah, just put them in. I just put a little sign that says "Put your earplugs on now."
Yeah, right.
Yes. Spoilers incoming.
Warning.
Hector starts sending like a form to podcast guests saying, "Okay, here are things that are off limits to discuss because I have."
Okay.
I'm just joking. Hector, let's ask him one final question before we let him go.
Yeah. So what are you guys working on? What's your upcoming projects?
Steph, go first.
Oh, I'll go first. So currently, I am. I have like a couple of things going on. I'm doing a lot of freelance art and personal art. I'm going to start on a project soon, and I'm currently working on my own horror graphic novel.
Oh yes.
Yeah, with me and my agent, I'm getting like the pitch ready. It was pretty much ready. I had like
Yeah.
a lot of like the fundamentals for it. I'm just like cleaning some stuff, and I'm like very, very excited to get back into it. Like I think that it's the perfect time. So
I was
yeah,
excited to see that you got representation. Who's your agent?
Jane Chen from Transatlantic Agency, and it was it was sort of like I don't know if I'll say it. I don't know if it was like destiny or what, but I remember that I was like working on something else, and out of nowhere, I got like the notification on my email, and it was her, and she told on her email was like, "Oh my God, I saw like the illustrations for your book, and I need to know if this is like already out or if you're looking for like representation because I would love to represent this." And so we had the call. Yes,
Yay!
I'm so excited. We had the call, and in the call, she was like, "I don't know how is this not out yet?" And I'm like, "I don't know either. It's been
I don't
so
know.
long."
Ma'am, you're preaching to the choir. I don't know.
Exactly.
I keep manifesting this shit. I don't know why it's not happening.
But I am very excited. I'm very, very happy for it that I am like working back on it because the original, what happened was that the original publisher had to drop it for, um, they have like a very specific reason to drop various titles uh, that the editorial like they were going through like problems and all that, giving like the current financial space, and mine was one of them. But the advantage that that gave me is that I have like it's pretty much done. It's already penciled out. I have half the story colored and lettered. And so what I'm doing with her is that I sent it to her and she's like, this is amazing. Like I need to see this out. Like she told me that she showed it around with like her colleagues and like in her workplace and they were like, oh my god, like this is so cool. And I don't know, that made me feel like very well because it is also like a very Mexican story, but I have shown it around like here and around, and the reception from like a lot of the people that I have shown it to, it's like this is like something that I feel that everyone needs to read because it's like it's based on my experiences, but it's also like I think that it's universal enough that it's gonna like resonate with a lot of people. So I'm very, very excited for it, and like I can't wait.
Awesome.
I am working on some new music. I have
Yeah.
a song coming out February 23rd. Have my album out currently, Mexi Americana. That record, just absolutely happy about it. If you guys want to hear the music, by all means, just search my name, Veronique Medrano. There is our book, our baby, our child that we made.
Our little baby, there
Our
it
little
is.
baby going out into the world. I will be at I'm trying to remember the name of the convention the first week of March, or no, the second week of March. I think it's BPOC
Yeah,
Con.
you're very Profe Aldama. Yeah.
Yeah,
BIPOC.
so
BIPOC. Yeah.
BIPOC,
100%. Yeah.
BIPOC in Austin. I will be there representing and just come by. And I will be going to USC to talk about the authenticity and voice of uh, Deep South Texas in March the 22nd. So if you guys are in the California area, I will be at USC. Voy a estar a todas partes, is what I'm trying to say to all of you.
Damn.
Vas
So
a
that's
andar como, o sea, arriba y abajo, en todas partes.
arriba, abajo, a todos lados. But please go follow myself. Please go follow Steph C. Follow everybody on here. This is not my podcast. I'm just saying do it because I said so. And
Absolutely. Follow us all.
follow
Yes,
everyone. But yeah, those are
everyone.
the things I'm working on. Music. I just oh shoot, I almost forgot. I just we're we got the artwork for the new book, that Black Demon Descent #3. I don't know. Yeah, the artwork will come out sometime next week, so I'm super excited about that. And you guys can go.
Great, yeah, so
Sweet. And then you guys can check out my website for more info about my experience writing, how it all started, from comic book conventions to comic book writers. So I thank you guys so much. Thank you for having me. Yeah, me callo.
No, it's fine. We love the fact that you guys had so much to say. It was really wonderful having a chat with you. Thank you so much. I'm assuming that the people who are watching the Super Bowl will come back and watch this.
Yes, se pasó el Super Bowl. We'll probably find out who won.
Yeah, right. If any of us even cares, right?
I just want to know if Taylor Swift won.
She
did.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm rooting for her. Isn't her team playing, right?
Yeah.
Aren't the Swifties out on the field?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being silly. I literally came out of Kansas City this morning, so I'm very aware of who's playing. Trust me.
You're like, I'm fully aware. Everyone was decked out.
It's all over that town. You can't get away from it.
So what you're saying is that you wore a Cowboys jersey, walked around the city just to kind of gain some perspective, and then went like, you know what? I'm gonna put this away.
Yeah. No, I value my life more than that. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you both so very much for the incredible work you put in. And everybody, please be on the lookout for more great stuff from Steph.
Yep. March 13 is on the street date for DRAGONTHRALL.
For DRAGONTHRALL.
Comic book store. Call.
Order it.
Call.
Order
it.
Oh,
and if you guys want a book tour, also give us a call. Tell us. We are more than happy to do signatures. I've been told I have to sing Que mi seria mi vida. Ay.
Chihuahuas. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Beto. Thank you, Steph.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Oh my gosh. Hector, it is another episode in the canon. I managed to not make it too badly.
Yeah.
So.
I have to admit, we just had a first celebrity, right?
Beto, yeah, we had a first celebrity.
Yeah, she is 100%.
Oh my gosh.
Tejano / country singer extraordinaire from Texas.
You take care of yourself, brother.
All right. See ya. Good night.
In 2 weeks, we will have somebody else. We don't quite know who yet, but we'll have another great guest. So check this out. We'll be on the episode should be up in Spotify tomorrow. And then we'll see you guys in 2 more weeks.